in your very life, even as an adult child of an alcoholic, meaning you grew up in an alcoholic family and now you're a mother, father, and you're fully grown up. First sign you'll have is difficulty in relationships. Hi, I'm Irene. Welcome to my therapy room. This is Coffee with a Therapist. Every week, I invite some guests into my therapy room through letters. And this week's letter is from Zawadi. Hi, my name is Zawadi, not her real name. I'm writing to seek your assistance in a delicate matter involving a dear friend of mine. I believe that an intervention for addiction is necessary. But unfortunately, her husband is standing in the way of her receiving the help she desperately needs, and I cannot understand why. I will assume it's Zawadi's friend or Zawadi herself. I have known my friend for several years and I have witnessed her struggle with addiction gradually worsening over time. However, her husband seems to be resistant to the idea of an intervention. He appears to be in denial about the severity of her addiction and is reluctant to take the necessary steps to seek professional help. I understand that he may be experiencing his own set of emotions and concerns, but it is crucial for her well-being that she receives the appropriate treatment. How can I convince him? We are going to assume two instances, that you are the friend and this is your experience, and this is actually a friend of yours. This is alcoholism in marriage. That's what we're going to discuss. I'll begin with a very controversial statement, which is actually very, very true. And we never seek to actually talk about it. And it is written scientific, and I'll read it. Many couples, when one individual who is alcoholic becomes sober, many marriages fall apart. And the percentage is clearly stated. Why is the reason? You'd think when your spouse becomes sober, everyone rejoices and the marriage becomes stronger, happier, the children are happier, life becomes rosy. But I'm actually claiming the opposite. And this is the reason. They feel they are not enough or wanted once the former addict becomes a full functioning, independent adult. Codependency was actually coined because of families that were experiencing alcoholism. And because this is simple therapy, I'll break it down to you in this way. If you grew up in a family where there was alcoholism, you learned to behave, to adapt, and to navigate your way around the alcoholic person, whether it was mom or dad. The whole energy, the whole attention centered around this one person. Now, remember, the family adapted to it. We all have assumptions that in a family of alcoholism, this man becomes violent or this woman becomes violent, wastes money, and does all the worst and craziest kind of things. But there is always day and night. Two sides of the coin always. In some families, the alcoholic was more generous, more giving, more lively. But either way, positive or negative, growing up we learned to adapt. And once we learned to adapt, what did we do? We said, I will never, never, never marry an alcoholic. My father was an alcoholic. Remember, I always say, your brain doesn't know not. It just knows facts. When you add not, it doesn't register. Let me give an example. You grow up in an alcoholic family and say you will never marry an alcoholic. Your daughter watches you as you marry a workaholic. This is a very good man. He works very, very hard. He's not like my father. So we allow him to work 24/7, 7 days a week. At least he's working for the family. Your daughter sees that and decides, Dad works too much, he's not fun. And she falls in love with a gambler. He makes money, but spends it all, but he's fun. He works from Monday to Friday, but Friday to the whole weekend, gambles it all away. Your daughter's daughter, your granddaughter, decides, my father has been a gambler. He makes 10 million, loses 3 million. Makes 15, loses 20. I'm not going to marry a gambler. And what does she do? She marries a miser. He makes 10 million, but even sharing 2 shillings, he doesn't. That is addiction taking various forms. That said, when we can't fix our original family, I couldn't change my father from being an alcoholic. In many ways, I am attracted to the same alcoholic and miss the red flags. And this time, I want to fix him. That's why so many people married to alcoholics say, how did I find myself here? I grew up, I knew the pain. How come I have repeated it again? When we were dating, I didn't see the red flags. You always miss the red flags because they are not flags to you. A red flag means foul. It means foul. When you're in a football match, you're shown a red flag, it means your offense or you have done something that is not acceptable. But if you grew up in a family where there was yelling and shouting and beating, it was acceptable. So in this new form of family where you grow up in, to you that's acceptable. Oh, he drinks, he doesn't drink too much. Anyway, when he drinks, he doesn't shout at me. So for you, what would be for somebody else red flags? They're not red flags. And so many of us, and that speaks of the weddest friend, sometimes we are also attracted to friends who are like where we grew up and what we used to. That brings me to the issue that Zawadi, I acknowledge and I am happy that you're a good supporting friend who wants to help your friend. And you have seen and walked with her through this journey. I have to say, some of us have friends and we can see them spiraling and we are saying nothing. Many of our family and friends intervene when we don't show up for work for a month. But when we missed work for an afternoon, we didn't say anything. And if we did, it was dismissed. But as a good friend, now you want to take intervention. No one becomes sober alone. You need family and friends. And if you have a brother, a sister, a father, an uncle, your mother, you can't give up on them. The whole world can give up on them, but not you, especially if you have blood. Sober people will tell you somebody stepped in. And if you have nobody, that's why institutions are there. When you go for AA, they give you a sponsor, somebody who's recovered and has struggled with the same, who will understand you and not judge you. Now, what do you do to help? Number one, their husband is coming in the way. Let's address his concerns. What are his concerns? What does he feel? Is he betraying her by sending her to a rehab? We need to sit down with her husband and explore his frustrations, his feelings, where he's coming from. What are his fears? Maybe it's just simply the money involved. We don't know. And that's why it's amazing for you and a few of your friends to sit him down and explore and say, listen, we need our friend well. We know you need your wife well. What are the issues? Why would you not want her well? We assume everyone would want his spouse well. But remember, your spouse has adapted into the addiction. And having you well means they are not needed. If I marry a patient because I'm the doctor and the patient gets healed, and I married them because they're a patient, so what's my use? I need them sick to be relevant. We need to explore where he's coming from. Number 2, maybe he grew up in an alcoholic family and he never got to vent out his injustice. And now he's seeing the injustice living every day in his life, and he has accepted the pain and has learned to cope with it. So as a friend, it needs further exploration in him and in you as well, and in any other person who grew up in an alcoholic family, to see how it affected you, it is still affected you, and how you can navigate through that. But the 3 issues is, what is balance? In your very life, even as an adult child of an alcoholic, meaning you grew up in an alcoholic family and now you're a mother, father, and you're fully grown up. First sign you'll have is difficulty in relationships. Number 2, maintaining balance. We all have balance: career, family, health and fitness, spirituality, finance, wheel of life where you need to balance. You'll always find yourself struggling. You need to get help from that. Fear of abandonment. But the most is codependency behaviors. Codependency simply means to feel better inside. I control and manipulate people and events so that I feel much better. And if you find yourself moved emotionally, I'm sad, and I need to do something outward to feel happy, there is an issue. And so for Zawadi, being a good friend, have a conversation with your husband, rally up your friends, and progress with intervening on behalf of your friends so that she may be able to get help. Be a support system. Don't deny what you see in yourself, in your family, in your friends. That marks the end of today's therapy session. Be well, be healed, and be whole. See you.